Fáilte arás got duine agus is Tommy Conn and panel seo occur in láthair díobse Sawala. So I'm delighted to be joined by Michelle O'Neill from Wexford, referee, and will be heading to officiate in her third World Cup later on this year. Roisin Upton, Irish Hockey International Olympian and World Cup silver medalist, and Katie O'Brien, rower and para gold medalist at the recent World Rowing Championships. You're all very welcome. Give them a big round of applause. The theme of our chat is Do It For Her. Roisin, when you started off playing hockey, who was your person that you thought of?
At the time, the current Irish hockey captain was Emer Cregan, who also played in my club team in Limerick. So I could see it, and when I saw it, I wanted to be it. And you know, still she's coaching my club team now in Catholic Institute, and she's been a huge inspiration to me since I was 12, since I started playing hockey. But before that, you know, I played soccer when I was 6 and 7, and I wanted to play for Ireland, and then I played GAA, and I wanted to play for Limerick in an All-Ireland final in Croke Park. So I played so many different sports growing up, and it wasn't until secondary school that hockey was the one.
Do It For Her for you, Michelle. Like, who do you think of?
I was just chatting away to Katrina there 2 minutes ago, and I just said it to her. I said she would have been one of the first with Sonia O'Sullivan that I would have saw on TV. And I was like, okay, so athletics is what I want to do. So I went and did athletics. And then you see, the only thing I didn't do is boxing. But, you know, I leave that to the experts. But yeah, I would have liked to say, again, would have done so many different sports, tried everything. Never saw any barriers of what to play, but there was never opportunities to be on all girls teams. So I always joined the boys team and just played and never saw any difference. And then, you know, just grown as a player, GA player and soccer player, and then coming to the point where, okay, what do I do next? And then still wanting to stay involved, and then going, I remember seeing my first ever female referee going, okay, females can do this. Do you know, so I never knew that you could do that. Got into that pathway and the rest was history. So yeah, it's really important to be able to see someone doing it. And now, in the recent years, I just kind of realised that I now have that role of, God, I'm the first to be doing what I'm doing. And, you know, reflecting on that, and, you know, you heard Anya and Lisa there, the responsibilities. And, you know, to be honest, if you're your own role model, you know, then you're pushing yourself forward. And then you can be the role model for others to follow. And that was a big kind of realization when I stood on the World Cup stage with Netherlands and USA and stepping out into my dream, finally realizing that, oh my God, this pathway is just going to open for everybody else. And it still have that emotion there and that feeling, that one moment of yeah, just do it for her. Yeah, it was brilliant.
Talk to me about rowing, because what attracted you to that sport?
I was sitting up in the bed with my dad, and I remember watching it so vividly, and I said to Dad, like, Dad, I have to do it, like, I need to go, this is amazing. And so we watched the Paralympics, and we sent an email off, and I got an email back to say, will you come to this Talent ID Day in UCD? So we went up to the day, and at the time, horse riding was what I was into, and like I said, I didn't even know what rowing was, but I tried the rowing machine, and the guy there was like, do that again? And I pulled a few more strokes. He was like, one more time? And about a month later, I was asked back to a training camp, and I'm a competitive person, and I like being good at things, and I was good at rowing. So like that, rowing found me rather than me finding rowing, yeah.
And did you enjoy it straight away?
Yeah, loved it. Like that, I went up to look at horse riding, but I was more into the adrenaline side of things, and dressage was the only option for horse riding at the time, and I still is for the Paralympics. So I was like, look, we're here. Mom was up with me. We said, we look at the other sports, and like I had watched rowing in the Olympics that summer as well with my brother, and he was telling me all the facts of look how fast they're going, and you know, so I'd kind of had like I'd seen it, but like, you know, so like I fell in love with it straight away. You know, it's the adrenaline, it's the buzz, it's the race, and you're building up for that one moment. So yeah.
You mentioned there one of your idols was Emer Cregan. Was she a major reason for you picking hockey or just being attracted to playing hockey?
Absolutely, yeah. I knew that she wanted to go to the Olympics. She competed at a World Cup in 2022 and the Olympics was her dream. So getting to train with her in my club towards the end of her career and seeing her fight for something that no Irish team, never mind a hockey team, had ever gone to. I loved the idea of that, and it became a real, I suppose, I saw the pathway and chased it, yeah, and I feel like I am living the dream. And you know, I think from when I started playing with the Irish team in 2016, it's completely transformed now 6 or 7 years later. And it's probably just a testament, you know, to my teammates, but also to the support that we've had over the last number of years.
When you told people, Michelle, that you wanted to be a referee, what did they say to you?
I questioned the referee every day I played football, and the girls will know, but yeah, I was probably one of a referee's nightmare, but I always asked the questions and wanted to learn more. So yeah, look, I always wanted to stay in the sport, didn't want to give up, and I wanted to find what I was good at. And I still remember my very first refereeing game. It was I went into schoolboys just in case I didn't like it and I could still play. But I went into schoolboys, under 10s game, and I remember the feeling of, oh my God, I'm teaching them the same time as, you know, telling them the laws of the game. But it was a different type of role than what I had experienced as a player, you know, and I just came home and said, yeah, that's what I want to do. And that was it. And within a year, I was accepted into the School of Excellence with the FAI. Within another year, 2 years, then got better, was on the FIFA panel. Within 3 years, I was my first FAI Cup final, and the rest just goes on. I mean, I remember then being picked for the first ever Irish person to represent in the FIFA tournament, and that was in Canada in 2015. And they were looking for more assistants because the football was just in women was just growing and growing. And back, you were talking about the viewership and being able to see and support. In Canada, we only had like 500,000 or 1 million people involved in viewing the World Cup. When I was there in 2019, we had 1 billion people, and we were actually on the stage going, no pressure, yeah, we're coming out and there's 1 billion people going to see this final. And you had to stay in your zone, and you had to just be, no, you trained for this, you worked hard, because after Canada I got the bug. You were saying the adrenaline started. I went to the quarterfinals, and I was like, because we compete as referees for the spot, there's only going to be 4 in the final, so we compete as well among ourselves. So you have to be the best, and you have to be, you know, have the mentally, physically, emotionally all ready, and to be able to perform split-second decisions and be correct in them decisions. And I remember coming back from Canada going, I was very emotional. I was like, no, I want to be in the final. What do I have to do to prepare, to be better, you know, to go back and be picked and selected and get all the way to the final.
And what did you have to do?
Everything.
And when you say everything, what
I
is
gave
that?
up my job. I looked for a strength and condition coach. I got a nutrition coach. I got so much team around me. I needed more team around me because there wasn't much support. So I had to build it and create it. And I knew what I needed to be better. And I knew, so I just went and researched and got it around me and just prepared 4 years before and just every day doing something for tomorrow and just keep going on. Mentally preparing, I worked more with like, I wouldn't say sports psychology, but with just more mentally believing in myself, as well as, you know, people see this, just go for it, and, you know, also kind of I also say that you need your family in your hand, because if you don't have your family support, you have nothing, because it's such a lonely place. I mean, it's different for teams. You have a big team you can lean on, but as a referee, it can be a very, very lonely place if you're not strong, mentally strong, physically strong and everything. But so if you create a team around you, it makes it so much easier to be able to achieve what you want to. And, you know, going back within, like, so that was my goal. In the year before, in 2018, I achieved that goal in the Under-20s World Cup by getting the final medal. A year before I actually had processed. So I was on track, and I knew I was on track. And then getting the team I was in, then I was in a team of French referees. So now I had to also create a bond between this team as well, and to know what this referee wants from me. So there's again another team element in an individual, but still team element. And then we had to work together for the same goal as well. And then the following year then, we got the first Irish person to represent Ireland in a World Cup final. And it was just surreal, because it just built from there. And you were saying success, you follow success, Amy said it. And you were just like, the Super Cup final again. Super Cup final was huge in terms of we were the first females in a men's sport final to ever referee in the world of sport and football, to stand on that stage and go, this is what females do in sport. And that was a huge moment, because that opened the doors for every other female match official around the world. They were getting their chances. It was like, hey, look, the Europeans did it, you have to do it. And that then created the whole circle around the world, and that's what you saw then. Last year in the World Cup final, there were 6 female referees, first time ever, and that was the referee I was with, Stephanie Frappa, and that started years ago, you know, building. So this year, I am super excited, because there's one different element, and you all know what it is. The team are there. So it's just going to be so amazing, and it's just, I wish them all the best luck. But
we'll come back to that in a few moments' time, Michelle, absolutely. But what strikes me there is determination, and that's something I want to chat to you about, that, and the determination you had to be the best as you possibly could be. And Katie, was a lovely article written by Dennis Walsh in the Irish Times recently, just interviewing you and your life and talking about your career. And words jumped out at me when I read that. Was about, you constantly use the words determination, and I'm determined and determined. You were born with spina bifida, so will you tell us a little bit about the challenges you faced as a child and where this determination to succeed came from?
So, like you said, I was born with spina bifida, so it's a condition that affects your spine. And it can depend where your lesion is, you know, how you're affected. So for me, my right leg is slightly weaker, but my left leg, I'd have very little calf muscle. I skip leg day, no. I've very little calf muscle and very little feeling or anything in my left leg, so it doesn't do much for me. But so growing up, the challenges would have been, you know, in and out of hospital. I'd get ulcers on my foot because it's a funny shape, and long stories, but in and out of hospital with that, and in and out of a wheelchair, crutches, walker, and so I'd had over 20-something surgeries, you know, by the age of 20. And so that word determination, you know, it's only with retrospect. I've been asked that question before, you know, people say, you know, where does your determination come from, or where does your resilience come from? And I think it was something that was learnt, but I didn't learn it by choice. It was out of necessity. Like, I didn't choose to have those surgeries. I had to have them, and I had to recover. There was no other option. So I guess now when I'm faced with a challenge, you know, I face that challenge and I say, like, it's something I have to do, and I have to recover from it. So it's just like a surgery, you know, you go in, you get it done, and you recover and you move on. So I think that's my approach to things, and it's like that, something I learned and had no choice but.
That determination, Roisin, would that be a strength or a super strength you would have, or how have you dealt with determination over your career?
Katie's talking about having 20 surgeries as if it's just going out for a cup of tea or something. Yeah, I think in elite sports you have to be determined. As the girls were talking about a while ago, you know, it's a roller coaster for everyone, and even within a team you've got a roller coaster of people's journeys that are overlapping all the time. For me, after secondary school, all I ever dreamt of was staying in Limerick and becoming a teacher, and my family were close and I wanted to play hockey for Ireland until an amazing opportunity came about that I could go travel to the States and study and play hockey over there. And I jumped at it thinking, actually, you know what, I'm going to go for it. If I never make it for Ireland, that was a risk that I was going to take. And off the back of that, you know, I had a double hip surgery over there. I didn't know if I would ever play hockey for Ireland again. You know, like there's just so many things I think that you have to bounce back from. And when you're growing up, you just dream about playing for Ireland, and nobody tells you what way the road is going to go, because you get to experience the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, but it's so worth it.
You came in 2016 and that breakthrough, and we say the word breakthrough for a lot of people that were playing Irish hockey. It's been a long time coming, getting silver in the World Cup. When you have that success, Roisin, what way did that change you, the way you looked at yourself as a player?
It was a funny one, yeah. We snuck into the World Cup, if I'm being honest. They had changed the qualification route. They had increased the amount of teams that could go from 12 to 16, so we were 15th there. We were just absolutely delighted to be there, couldn't believe it. We're living in a bubble. Then we came home and had realised people had actually heard we have an Irish hockey team. So it probably didn't change too much. You know, the dream was still to qualify for an Olympics, and that was within 2 years. So again, we had some challenges. We had a change of a coach. We had COVID, lots of things happened. So I think it didn't necessarily change us. You know, it's funny being in a position now where people are familiar with who you are, but our programme has changed, as I was saying, over the last 6 years, and like DoItForHer is just us trying to remain consistent so that, you know, we're one of the best supported, funded teams from the Sports Institute and from our private sponsors, Park Development. So we need to perform week in, week out. We need to score goals. We need to not concede goals. We need to get results so that the next generation can continue seeing Hockey Ireland at major tournaments. And they're the kind of things that we, you know, that we're aware of, and they're the pressures that we face every single week because our funding is dependent on that. And you know, it's so exciting and we're so grateful for it, but that is the reality. So yeah, in the next 2 years, we're looking at Paris. I don't think it changed us too much.
Go back to the World Cup, Michelle. So we're used to seeing all about the players and hearing about the build-up and the hard work. So you've touched on the amount of work that you have to do that. So just talk to us about preparing for a World Cup. Is it completely different from every other competition? And what are you doing now to get yourself ready and prepared for come what May and July?
Okay, so I started preparing for this World Cup 4 years ago, but I'm basically just off a plane from Doha there now. I'm a little bit wobbly, but yeah, so we had our full week seminar and it's rigorous. I mean, we were in the VAR simulators, we're doing match preparation, we're doing instant feedback with our decision making on the field, watching it back in cameras, get back out there, do more decisions. We're doing physical tests, we're doing fitness tests, we're doing strength, flexibility. So we do all this in the big group that we were in for the week. And then we have the line of, okay, where we're at and what we need to fine tune. So at the moment, we are prepared. We were already prepared as referees for 6 months' time. What we are doing now is fine tuning our mental capacity because we're already physically there. And we're then just kind of getting more into now the VAR simulators, you know, making sure that we are 200% prepared for these athletes that are going to turn up, because when the teams all come in, turn up, that's it, the competition is ready. So we analyse every single team that's there. We have our coach analyse, and we'll know the players. We'll know what corners they take. We know exactly the playmakers. We know everything about all these teams. So we are going to what we want to do as referees is to facilitate the best World Cup that these players can ever be in. And that's our target, and that's our job. And we just go in, do our job, and walk away. And then just have these athletes then being the best that they can be. So in the next couple of months then, I'm actually heading away in 2 weeks' time for the playoffs in New Zealand. So we'll know who the rest of the teams are going to be in the World Cup, and then probably a couple of European qualifier or European games and Champions League, and then at home here I'll do the top men's games in the National League. And Anya and Lisa touched on it there. So the SSE Electricity League now has the three things together, as in the Premier Division, the First Division, and the Women's. And that to me is huge, because we're under one bracket now, and finally that we're the same. So I will do the women's games and the men's games here at home, and as much as possible to stay fit, healthy, and just maintain what I'm doing, to be 100% ready for the girls to come over.
It's exciting.
Oh, it's so exciting. I get so excited talking about it. Can you tell?
No, but it is. I think we're all excited about it and geared up for it. But it's very interesting from the referee's perspective, because I think there is an assumption out there that the referees maybe, well, not that they're going to spoil a game, but they're not as integral to the game as the players, and everyone's talking about the players. But from a referee perspective, there's so much work goes into that. What do you find the most challenging when you're involved in a World Cup?
The most challenging is to switch off, so I've recently, I'm able to, I've learned techniques to be able to just switch off, because, for me, on the pitch, it's easy. Like, it doesn't look easy, but it's easy for me because I'm trained and I love it and I'm passionate about it. But when you come off the pitch, you're still on a high and you're still going through the match and everything. So you need to know how to be able to switch off and calm down. So that's a challenge. So if you're not mentally prepared or know what your switches are, your triggers are, that could be challenging for some referees or some athletes or anybody. So sometimes you'll see me actually painting, and it's because I can just switch off and just put it on the paper. And it's one way that I can just change the brain and creative side to the technical side. So, yeah.
Good luck with it. We'll be chatting a bit more about it before we finish up tonight. But Katie, for you, as Roisin mentioned, there's a lot of highs, there's a lot of lows. I mean, the massive high last year, of course, was winning that gold medal. Tell us about it. Tell us what were your emotions at the end of it.
I think the biggest one was relief, really, because, it's like that. It's something you dream of. It's when you're training and you're out in 6 a.m. on the river and you're freezing and you're like baiting up the river, and that's what you're thinking of. You're doing it for that. So I went into that race and I had no expectations, but it was the result I wanted. So the initial feeling was just total relief, and obviously then elation and
Because when I say the highs and lows and the twisted turns that life always has, not only in sport, because you stepped back from the sport for a while, didn't you? Tell us a little bit about that. I know your beloved father passed away and you decided to take a wee break from that. How was that, first of all, for you, taking a step back from the sport?
So the step back from the sport, it was difficult. It kind of was a natural end, and obviously I took a lot of time making that decision. But so unfortunately at the Paralympics, the single, which is the boat I won the medal in, isn't a boat class, so I have to do it in a mixed double. And at the time, the single wasn't even an event at the World Championships. So it was the double or nothing, and I was just training for nothing, really. And we couldn't find a male athlete that I had to be a specific classification, because para sports have all different classifications. So I mean, the population was halved because I had to be a male, first of all, and then you have to try and find someone with a really specific disability, which is difficult. Like, so, yeah, it just didn't work. It also did coincide, though, with me starting college. So I replaced the time spent in the gym with time going out and having crack. So it wasn't all bad either. But yeah, so it wasn't, like, it was tough. It was a tough decision. But I got the call then when I was in third year college from the coach, and he was like, Katie, the singles an event at the World Championships. And sure, it was like a red rag to a bull. I was like, right, let's go, like, here we go. So I went straight back to it, and yeah, loved getting back into it.
And when you met your new partner for the double sculls, Stephen, yeah, what was your first impression of him?
Oh, from the off, he just had that glint in his eye where he's a bit of crack, and he's as stubborn as I am, and we train really, really hard together, and we like feed off each other, and he's great energy, and like that. Like, sure, I was spending so much time training by myself and like loving it, but sure, now I had someone to spend it with, and everyone knows it's sure you go to a gym class, it's just easier to train hard with other people. So it made my job so much easier and much more fun because I had someone to do it with.
And how often would you train?
So we train 2 or 3 times a day. I just moved down to Cork to the National Rowing Centre. So we'd have usually 2 sessions a day, and then sometimes on a Wednesday and Friday it'd be 3. Mm-hmm.
Roisin, for you, like, training obviously is integral to being successful in any way in life. For hockey as well, I mean, you've had to deal with some very key pressure moments, standing over penalties and taking them. How do you handle pressure? What goes through your mind when you know, okay, if I don't score this, that's it?
I certainly don't think that. I kind of like to be in the driver's seat as opposed to watching. I think it's much harder watching. And I think I've always been comfortable with making mistakes and not getting things right. And I think once you're prepared, you can be confident. So, you know, we've got a fantastic team psychologist at the moment who does a lot of work with us, and I've worked with psychologists in the past that prepare you for those highly stressful moments so that you're thinking the right things, that you're prepared, just as you might be to switch off, that you're prepared. You know, in Donnybrook back in 2019 when we had to qualify for the Olympics, I missed my first shootout and was surprised as anyone else when the head coach asked me to take the next one. But I knew that, sure, it doesn't matter that I missed the last one, that's no bearings on what my next one is being, because that's life. And I was chuffed and delighted, and I think his backing backed me. So I think it's all about your processes and trusting that you are prepared mentally, that you've done a billion against a goalkeeper, that you can fall back and, you know, you feel like you're in a training ground, you can just zone everything out, and probably just try to make light of it as opposed to what it really means. And then, yeah, then comes the relief when you get over the line.
We're going to come to the end of this panel discussion, but just, I suppose, for young boys, young girls watching in this, Michelle, like, what advice would you give them?
You know, just totally believe in yourself 100% and just try everything. You know, don't just, oh, I think I might, just go for it. Just do it. Just get out there. You know, you'll fail, but you'll get up again and you'll just succeed even better and bigger. So just believe in yourself and do it.
What about you, Roisin? What would you say?
Yeah, I always think that, you know, if I could do it, you're a young girl from inner Limerick City, that, you know, anyone can. It doesn't matter what the sport is. We're so lucky now that we have so much available to us, clubs, sports, role models from an array of sports. So yeah, just try different things. You never know what you're going to fall in love with, and ask for help.
Your advice?
I guess definitely, you know, like, dreaming big, it's so important, and, you know, set your hopes high, but what's just as important is actually enjoying the journey to getting there, because that moment lasts for 10 seconds, for 5 minutes, whatever it may be. But actually, like that, you've spent 4 years trying to get to where you are now, and like yourself, you know, like trying to qualify, and myself trying to qualify for Paris, like, that's so much time spent trying for this one moment. So it's really important that time spent, you're enjoying it as well. So just to enjoy the journey.
That is great advice. Ladies, Gurmila Maigi, a bheith in the Nocht, a le giliús a bit of more, Irma Nella, our panel on Shaw.